So today's the day I'm going to use my slug nematodes in the vegetable garden. Now there are so many benefits to adding those to your garden in early spring, just before or after a rainfall, and I'm going to tell you all about it now. So slug nematodes are actually a microscopic worm that actually you introduce into your garden. There is already some in your soil, but what you're doing is you're actually multiplying that by tenfold. And what happens is those little small microscopic worms enter the slug and then eradicates them all out of your garden. So then you're left with beautiful, fresh green vegetables like the cabbages, the lettuces, and all the other brassicas that normally get all those little holes nibbled, eaten, destroyed before they've even got a chance to grow. So for me, it's a win-win. Now it's easy to apply. All you need to do is just add a small amount of this to a watering can, and then you just basically drench your beds and even your paths as well. So don't be shy to add it to your paths because there'll be slugs there as well. You're better off adding it to as much of the garden as you can. Now you need to make sure that you keep the moisture levels up high for the next couple of weeks. So once you apply it, you need to make sure those beds are kept moist. They don't go dry, they're kept nice and moist to ensure that the nematodes actually keep reproducing and making sure that they don't die. Because if the soil goes dry, the nematodes then die out, they can't reproduce, and then it's been a wasted process. So you need to make sure for the next couple of weeks that you keep this soil nice and moist. So timing, so the best time to do it is in early morning before the sun comes up, or late at night before dark. Now you don't want to be doing it when it's a really hot baking sun day. Today is perfect, the sky is grey, it's about to have a rainstorm. It rained all night, so it's already adding, like I said, a nice watering, and it's going to have another watering naturally by the rain. Now if it's not going to rain, make sure that you water your beds thoroughly beforehand, and then make sure that you do it afterwards as well to wash all those nematodes in, and then every day after keep watering those beds for about 3 weeks. So you're probably wondering why slug nematodes? Now they're actually more of a natural defense against the dark slugs rather than using a chemical form like slug pellets or spraying your crops. They only target the slugs, they don't harm you, they don't harm your pets, they don't harm your plants. So there's no worry of them of actually hurting anything else around the garden, just those pesky slugs. So when to apply your slug nematodes, it's best to do it in early spring, early autumn. You can actually add another application about 6 to 8 weeks later. I've never done that. I've only normally do one at the start of spring. And if I felt that I needed to, then I maybe would use it again in about a month or two's time. But I find knocking them off at the start of the season, preferably about a week before that you're going to put the plants out, because you want to give it time to kick into action and eradicate some of those slugs. I don't have a massive slug population here. This is a new plot, so we're not quite sure what's lurking in the soil, but this one will be primarily used for the slug nematodes. I will add some more to the fig and olive plot as well, but today I want to make sure that we try and eliminate some of those slugs, because in the next couple of weeks they will be out in force. So for best practice, try and put them out about a week before you're going to put the crops out. If you can't and you want to, you add it afterwards, that's okay as well. But for best practice, if you've got them there stored, make sure you keep them in your fridge as well when they get delivered, because they like to be kept cool. They'll actually survive better there. They're all in a sealed container, so do not be worrying about it. Bring them out and then just simply add them to a watering can and water them across your beds. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So, applying the nematodes. Now, I have seen many variations of how to apply the nematodes to your garden. Now, I've used it in spray bottles, I've used it in watering cans without the rows, with the rows. I've added it to a hose pipe system, and I've also had different variations of how much to put in each watering can. Now, a lot of them advise you to use for the 40 pack, which is the 40 metre square pack, to use a 4 litre watering can, add it up to water, and then add the whole pack in, make a concentrate, and then divide that into each watering can by using a little small scoop and whatnot of each of it and dilute it down again and again. I don't tend to do that because I find that that's such a faff, and it's something I don't want to be spending all day on trying to work it all out. So I'll put the information in the description if you want to go down that route. But what I tend to do is, in a pack like this, I use a normal plant label, or I use a teaspoon, and I use a small amount like this into each 14 litre watering can, like so. So I put in there about half a teaspoon into a 14-litre watering can, and I find that's really effective. So if you want a simple way of doing it, don't throw the whole thing in, but if you want to, you can throw it all into here and then mix all that up and then decanter it into another watering can and add it with water and then use it that way. But I tend to do it individually. Each time I want to use it, I put it into a watering can, add some water, give it a little mix with like a hand fork or a trowel or a piece of wood, just to make sure that those nematodes are all mixed together well. There you go, like so. Now the issue with this is that nematodes have got this nasty habit of sticking in the actual hose rows. So this is why I like to do it this way. Now do not water it through the nets, take the nets off, because some of the nematodes are going to stay in that net. And then all you do is apply it to all the beds, like so. Now don't just do the brassica beds, because slugs live in all the beds, all the paths, all the planters, and even down the side of your beds as well. Ensure that those nematodes are everywhere. Your fruit cage, the polytunnel, the greenhouse, and even inside your plant trays as well, where slugs might be hiding or they've laid eggs, and even your compost bays. So I've given you all the benefits of using slug nematodes, but are there any drawbacks? Are there any negatives to doing it? Now, yes, it is a horrible way to eradicate your slugs, but I'd rather that than them eradicating my crops that I've worked really hard for. But also, is it any worse than using a slug beer trap or using slug pellets? So I'd rather use it this way, where it's natural and it doesn't actually harm the soil and anything else in the garden. Like if you use some slug pellets, birds then eat the slugs and then they become poorly, hedgehogs and other wildlife in the garden. So I like the fact that this would just eradicate them in the soil. But there are some other disadvantages of using nematodes, and I just thought it'd be fair to give you the pros and the cons. So some other cons are that it only lasts for about 6 to 8 weeks, which is normally what you'd only need it for anyway, because at that period you're trying to eradicate them at the small slug stage rather than those big chunky ones. Now they will actually eradicate them as well, but this is more productive on using them on the small ones at the larva stage and also the smaller slugs. Also, snails. A lot of snails don't actually get eradicated by using slug nematodes, which is probably why they've marked it to say slug nematodes rather than slug and snail nematodes. So if you've got a snail issue in your garden, then this might not be for you, but I'm sure they will still do some benefits to your garden anyway. So yeah, if you've got a snail issue, maybe look at other options. Also, this is not 100% guaranteed. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that you'll do once and then it's forever. This only lasts, like I said, for 6 to 8 weeks. And then if you need to reapply, you do. But I only find that doing this one thing knocks them off at the start of the season, and then it gives my plants the chance to put them out into the garden. I mean, you've got to work with the nematodes. You've got to work with your garden. So putting out healthy, strong plants beforehand and then putting the nematodes on top then gives them that extra boost of defense against those slugs. So don't be putting out small weedy plants and then expecting this to be the magical cure, because it's not. And lastly, the cost. So the cost of this isn't cheap. I mean, this little pack here is around about 15 to 20 pounds. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely, because I'd rather spend this money on nematodes now than me coming over in a couple of weeks' time and I've got unhealthy plants. They're not nice to look at. There's loads of holes in the plants. They're not growing as well. I'm not going to be able to give them to my friends and family because they're all scraggly plants at this point. I want to be able to pick up a cabbage, hand it over to my friends and family, and it looks prize winning. So for me, it's worth it, but just for you to know that there is a little bit of cost in having the nematodes. So I feel like I've been fair by giving you some of the pros and some of the cons of having nematodes. I mean, you can do that with any product, you can do that with anything in the garden. There's always benefits and disadvantages to anything, but I hope that this has helped you in deciding whether or not nematodes is for you or not. I'm always getting questions and comments about the nematodes, so I thought if I give a dedicated video to it, it can help you decide whether or not they're for your garden. So there are other options if you didn't want to use slug nematodes, like using beer traps and coming out at night time with a torch and trying to catch as many as you can. I'm not saying nematodes is for everyone, but it works for my garden, so it's up to you if you want to decide. But I hope this has helped you understand nematodes a little bit better and the benefits of your garden. I'm Danny, and this is Grow Up.